Hello.
Oops, I see it was on mute.
So is David joining in?
David should be joining. Let me just see.
Yes, he just texted me.
Oh, okay. So he's prepared to go through the plans and everything?
So he said that, he will verbally tell them that, we are willing to, take the setback from 18 feet to 20 feet. And what we discussed was that, we, if required, we can also give them an option that if they don't want any offset, we can start the construction right from the street line, but we'll have to put up a garage for 2-car parking. But he said, he doesn't want to give something in writing unless until they debate and they discuss it.
Right. Yeah, I agree. So we're just going to,
David is
show
there.
what we're proposing, and then we'll get feedback. Hey, how are you?
Hi.
I hope that your ability to screen share is working tonight, Dave, because for whatever reason, my PDF, my Adobe's, I don't know if the firm hasn't paid for an updated license or what, but it's just not cooperating.
Okay. So it's funny because I've had issues with my Adobe license in the last like 2-3 weeks. Like I can't find the registration.
Oh.
It's something with like a Windows update that went through that like messed it all up. So
I don't know what it was.
Yeah,
on our end.
I've had that issue recently. The whole like Adobe software package just gets on my nerves at times. We close some things.
Oh wait, actually, it just finally loaded. Okay.
Okay.
So David, if required, we can also give them an option that, we can have 0 offset, but then we'll have to put up a garage at the front.
I don't think the zoning board would go for a garage. I don't know.
Yeah, but I think they'll be okay with
The
it.
neighborhood would be much less in favor of that as well. Just gonna put that out there. We absolutely would not be okay with you building all the way up to the sidewalk with the current building of the street.
We are okay with 20 feet offset,
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
So can you hear me?
Yeah, could you repeat yourself? Sorry, I just turned my volume up.
We are okay with 20 feet offset as recommended or as proposed by the RCO during the last meeting.
Okay, I missed the last meeting. I didn't have a notice that this was being discussed at the last meeting.
David, can you brief?
Carolyn, are you a neighbor?
Yeah, I'm at 718.
Oh.
I'm on the
Okay.
block.
So we had a meeting. So the meeting that Mahmoud is referring to is a meeting that we had with the executive committee for this RCO. We didn't notice for the prior meeting. We only noticed for this meeting.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you didn't have neighbors in another meeting on this project?
We have not received any neighbor feedback yet. So that's the reason that we're having the meeting tonight.
Right. Yeah, I was just confused when he said the last meeting. I was like, what last meeting?
Yeah, no. Thank you. So I'm glad I clarified that. So if anyone else has that same comment, I'll make the same point that we have not met with neighbors yet.
Yeah, I didn't think so. It was just when he said last meeting, I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, my mailroom has been lacking recently, but not that bad.
Right.
Just...
All right, everyone, we'll get started, and then we can, shuffle around any of the agenda items as needed. So good evening, everyone. I'm Jen Tran, president of United Francisville Civic Association. Wanted to welcome all of you tonight for our August UFCA community meeting. Real quick, I'll just share my screen with the agenda for tonight, and then I will kick it over to Chris to share a little bit more about some of the upcoming Francisville Neighborhood Cleanup Day. But for tonight, we're super excited that you're here to join us virtually. As I said, I know earlier we had talked about potentially moving some of our meetings back to in-person, but outdoors at the rec center. And I think for right now, given the city's new mask mandates that were announced earlier today, I think it's a good idea to kind of keep everything virtual. But for tonight, we will, Chris Morton, our treasurer, will talk a little bit more about the upcoming Francisville Neighborhood Cleanup Day. We'll have some committee updates briefly. I know a couple of folks are on vacation this week, so we'll be quick with that. And then we have 2 zoning projects up for review tonight for 740 North 20th Street and 1939 Poplar Street. And then we have a little bit of time at the end this evening for open community discussion. So we can, if anyone has any events to share or any topics of discussion, you know, it's definitely open discussion time tonight for that. And as a quick reminder, I just want to let everyone know that this meeting is being recorded, and we will post the meeting minutes on our website after the meeting next week. And we will also post the meeting recording on our UFCA YouTube channel for anyone who wasn't able to attend tonight's meeting.
Excuse me, Jen.
Yep.
I'm here representing 1926 Cambridge Street. I believe that was on the agenda for this evening. We did a mailing.
Okay. Let me just see. Is Megan Grimm or Vivek on the line here? I was just going by the 2 projects that was sent to me, and I apologize if that was
okay.
missed.
Yeah, we did a mailing and with the flyer. We mailed to over 500 households, I believe.
Okay.
I'm sorry, 140, 142 households.
Okay. Vern, I will take a peek into that. I was
Thank
going by
you.
the, yeah, no problem. Give me just a couple minutes.
Sure,
I was
take your
just going
time.
by the
I'm sure I
information.
I'm sure I got you off guard. So it's all good. Take your
Okay.
time.
All right,
Yep.
cool. But with that, while I check that out, I'm going to hand it over to Chris Morton to talk a little bit more about the upcoming planned Francisville Neighborhood Cleanup Day.
Yeah, thanks, Jen. Just real quick, just to bring everyone up to speed. I know I talked, it was probably 2 months ago at this point, just on a cleanup day for the neighborhood. I know it's a hot button in terms of trash in the neighborhood, and you know, doing our best on a more frequent basis, more consistent basis to make sure that, you know, we're not only, you know, we're not just complaining about it, we're doing something about it. So back in April, we held the cleanup on 15th and Paris Street. That was successful. We have some leftover supplies there. So I know we put out the feelers about a month ago, and I've talked to a couple people about volunteering and assisting for that. So we're initially looking at August for that, but there were some conflicts in scheduling. So we're pushing that back to early September, and we'll have a communication out in the next 2 days with a flyer and gauging interest for, you know, who wants to do what. You know, I've had a couple emails in my inbox, you know, just pinpointing pain areas in terms of trash in the neighborhood. I think everyone that walks, you know, their dog or just around the neighborhood sees those areas. It's not only the rec center, but also there's alleyways that, you know, for some reason trash seems to collect there, especially after trash day, obviously. So, you know, we're planning on pinpointing certain areas, collecting the group efforts of the neighborhood. And we have some supplies left over from the city from our April cleanup, but are also looking for donations in that regard. So just piecing that together in early September, look for an email out, and we would appreciate anyone's help, looking to hopefully subsequently put together kind of a group of people to do this on a consistent basis going forward. So keep an eye out on your emails and reach out. Feel free to reach out to me directly. My email's treasurer@unitedfrancisville.com. So looking forward to see everybody out there and help beautify the neighborhood. So appreciate it. Thanks, Jen.
Thanks, Chris. And with that, I think we'll just jump right into some of the brief committee updates. Again, I think some of these are all volunteer-led committees for UFCA, including marketing and events, outreach and inclusion, fundraising and sponsorship, and community resources and the zoning committee. And so I serve as co-chair on the marketing and events committee, and I know a couple of the other volunteers aren't able to make it tonight, but I did want to share a couple events happening around the community, including the Francisville pool has been open all summer, and I'll drop the link in the chat, but the schedule and more information is available on their Facebook page. And I believe that's open through for a couple more weeks through August. And as always, Eastern State Penitentiary offers their 19130 series, which are free neighbor days on the second Sunday of every month. That includes free daytime admission for up to 6 neighbors who reside in the zip code 19130, which encompasses all of Francisville and some of the other adjacent neighborhoods as well. So that's a really cool neighbor perk that they offer. And for anyone who runs a small business in the community, the Merchants Fund is offering free legal resource webinar next Wednesday, August 18th from 12 to 1. And I can drop the link to join that free webinar as well, but it is pro bono legal and low-cost legal resources available to any small business owners, and they wanted me to share that information with the community. And then last but not least, I did want to share a little bit of information about the Francisville Neighborhood Development Corporation and IPAM, the Indigenous Peoples Artisan Marketplace at 1628 Ridge Avenue. They have a bunch of really great upcoming events that they wanted me to share with the Francisville community. They have an upcoming meeting on the last Tuesday of August this month from 6:30 to 7:15 at IPAM. And some of the topics that they'll be covering at the meeting include meeting the produce vendors and farmers interested in setting up shop at IPAM. I think they have concerns about community interest, and they were just hoping to meet some of the people and neighbors who would be ready to patronize that produce and farmers market stand at IPAM. They also have some other programming and events coming up through the end of October of this year with programming partners, vendors, event facilitators, and these folks will all be on hand at the FNDC meeting to answer any questions and address any concerns that any residents may have regarding their activities at IPAM. And then the last thing that FNDC wanted us to share is Tuesday nights are their summer solstice series with Barbara Cherie and friends. It's a very classy, soulful live music weekly event. And if you're attending and wish to stay for the event, the donation will be discounted by $5 and the rest of the funds. I don't have the cost of it, but it goes towards the FNDC fundraising revenue. So happy to share that information. Again, I'll drop some of those links in the chat. I know I went through them pretty quickly, but they'll be recapped in our email. And with that, I wanted to jump over to Chris, if you have any fundraising or sponsorship updates, and for any other members from the other committees to share any quick updates.
Nothing on my end, Jen. Appreciate it.
I just want to speak quickly. This is Megan speaking for zoning. We're always looking for new zoning members. We need a new zoning chair, and we are actively recruiting members. So if you're interested, please come to a meeting. We meet once a month. They're open meetings. Anyone can come. If you've had any experience with our zoning or projects, etc., we'd love to see you. Please come to our meetings. Come join us.
Thanks, Megan. And I actually think the other members of our committee are all on vacation this week, much deserved vacations. So I think with that, I do want to just jump right into zoning. And Megan, I don't think you were on the line, but Vern shared that he is here representing, Vern, I don't have the address, Cambridge Street. And yep. I just didn't have the information for that tonight.
1926, Cambridge. Megan sent us an email on the 26th of July saying that the at-large community meeting would be August 11th. So we did a flyer on it.
Great. Did you come to the zoning meeting ahead of time, Vern?
Yeah. we've already been before the committee at the end of July.
Perfect.
I could forward that email to whomever needs to see it.
No, we'll find it. No big deal. We'll
Okay.
add you on. We'll put you on last, Vern.
Yeah, thanks, Vern.
Yep.
So with that, I think we'll kick off, and if the folks for what I had first on the agenda in no particular order is 740 North 20th Street, but I'll let Megan kick it off and share the information about it, and then have the
Jen, if you could do that, I'm on the struggle bus this moment. If you could introduce the first project. The first project is 740 North 20th Street. 740 North 20th Street. I'm pulling it up. They're looking for a permit for the erection of a building that includes a roof deck and off-street surface parking, single family. And this is in the area that has been downzoned. So with that, you can start.
great.
Thanks, everyone.
Yep, and as our format goes, we'll do 8 minutes for presentation and 8 minutes for Q&A, or combined 16 minutes for that.
Okay, thank you. I don't think it's going to be too terribly long of a presentation, so I'm just going to share my screen so that everyone can take a look at the refusal and the plans. As Megan indicated, this is going to be for, I'm sorry, did I introduce myself? My name is Augusta O'Neill. I'm with the law firm of Clare, Harrison, Harvey, Brandsburg. Also with me tonight is David Whipple, our architect, and Mahmoud Saeed, who is with the development team. So this proposal is to erect an additional structure on top of an existing home to make it a 3-story property. So we received a handful of refusals, one of which was for the proposed parking space that we have in front of the property, as well as the balconies that are in the front yard. There's certain setback requirements with the city that the proposal doesn't exactly comply with. And so for that reason, we received those refusals. And so we did meet with your zoning committee at the end of July, just to get their initial feedback. And so the purpose of tonight's meeting is to show everyone what we're proposing in your neighborhood and to get some feedback. I'm sharing the plans on my screen. As you can see, this property is going to have a roof deck. This is just, because I know everyone likes to see these. These are the elevations just showing what it's going to look like in black and white. For context, so that everyone can kind of orient themselves to this neighborhood, I'm going to show you something similar that's going up across the street, or that has gone up across the street, that would have gotten similar refusals and variances. And so, like I said, we're just here tonight to get feedback on the application, to hear from some neighbors. We've already received some initial feedback from the committee, but we would like to hear what everyone has to say about the application. David, was there anything that you wanted to go over, or?
Just a quick clarification. So we are going to take the existing structure down. So it is all new. It is all new construction.
Right. So that was pretty much, I don't think it's a terribly complicated application. We wanted to just get some feedback on the proposed parking spaces and the balconies that generated the refusal that we're now asking the zoning board for the variance relief on.
Hi, yeah, I'm Carolyn Steinberg. I live on the same block, on the same side of the block. And my problem is with your proposal to change the setback for the property to only be 16 feet instead of 30 feet. And I don't entirely understand the second setback change, what that means if you're planning to do 3 stories flush, or if the top stories are coming ahead of the first story. But either way, that would be a massive change to the neighbors and to the section of the street. Right now, everybody is basically a one-story property, 30 feet set back. This would be a gigantic building in the middle of the block. And you would also begin to block light for all the neighbors on both sides of you. And my concern is that if you start this in the middle of the block, every other construction property that or redevelopment that happens on the block will start coming in, and every neighbor that's next to one of these large redevelopments will lose all light to their house.
Well, I just wanted to clarify. So we're doing what we are permitted to do by the zoning code as far as height. So height was one of
Yes, but setback. I'm talking about setback. If you bring a property 16 feet forwards from where it currently is and where it's currently in line with the other properties, when the sun comes up, it comes up at an angle. And the way it comes is slightly to the side that's closer to Fairmount on the block and crosses over. So anybody that is to the north of a new building with a setback that comes above the current setback will be completely in shadow. And since I can't tell from your plans, you put them up so quickly, if you're also planning on reducing the backyard, that would also block the light to the back windows.
The back, oh, I'm sorry. Can everyone hear me? Yes. Okay. The backyard wasn't one of the bases of the refusal.
Right. But I'm saying in addition, so if you're changing the backyard and the front yard, you'll be blocking the light to all the windows in the neighboring houses. And light is a huge factor in, quality of life, and especially now so many people working from home. If you're cutting off the natural light to their properties, it'll be severely impacting their quality of life.
So just to clarify, so we're only coming forward, it's 12 feet, not 16 feet?
That's still a very large amount of space.
It is. And then just in terms of like the lot coverage and rear yard, like, so we're simply extending the rear yard to what's allowed as of right.
Right.
So
Which is what?
we're allowed a 9-foot rear yard from the eastern side of the alley.
Okay.
And our lot
The
coverage
current yards are more like 20 feet. So again, that would be a large change to the neighbors. And I understand that that is by right, so we can't protest that. But,
No,
you know,
so I think your rear yard from the alley is about 14 feet.
we don't have an alley in between the back of the houses on these. My yard and the yard of the house that you're planning to redevelop backs up to another yard.
Yeah, so there's a deeded alley that runs down your rear property lines. So we're probably from your so
From the fence line, then how far would you be?
Is the fence line at your rear property?
The fence line would, I suppose, be in the middle of that deeded right of way.
It wouldn't necessarily, Carolyn. It really depends who the neighbors were who put up the fence and where they put it and whether or not someone cared.
Well, I mean,
you
the
could
entire,
assume for averages that it's in the middle, but there's no guarantee it is.
yeah, there's
So, like-
there's no visible alleyway in this section of the neighborhood. It is yards that abut yards, and the fence line is completely straight the whole way down the block.
Okay, so like we're probably going back about 3-4 feet from your rear elevation, from the rear of your house.
Okay. And then I'm also seeing on these plans that you have the owners listed as, what was it, Mark and who was the Bozeman's?
Yep.
But I was looking on property search and it showed that they no longer, that it was sold to a development company this year.
Yeah, so how Al and I work is that we have to show the owner as a record that Al and I has at their office.
And they're still a little behind on their records.
Yeah, like it takes them like 4 or 5 months to catch up.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, I'm actually aware of that. I just wanted to check that, just
Yeah.
that so it's transparent to the neighbors that this is not the current owners doing this. This is a development company that bought the property for $450,000.
Okay.
So I just want to speak as a resident, not as zoning, but I will. Does anyone have a zoning, a comment other than Carolyn, or to add that on that they'd like to bring up right now?
Hey, Megan, I know you mentioned at the start of this zoning project that this block or the side of the block, sorry, I don't remember exactly what you said, was the side that was recently downzoned. Could you just elaborate on that for any neighbors who may not understand what that means or is not aware of?
Sure.
this
So for
happening?
neighbors, yeah, so for neighbors who are unaware, who are new, parts of, I don't think it goes 19th to like 20th and Uber. There's a couple sections of these lower houses that you've probably seen. They're in the picture on your screen right now. They were developed 30 years ago. A lot of them have been sold. And when the city did redistricting, most of our neighborhood went to a different zoning that essentially allows for multiple units instead of single family homes. And so what you see on the left side of that picture is the redevelopment of these single family properties into 3, 6, 8, etc. Really small apartments. It's something the neighborhood has worked very actively with Daryl Clark's office to try and put a stop to. It was very successful in that there has now been what we call a down zoning or downgrade map that essentially becomes an overlay for this district. So what you see on the left, those apartment buildings with all the cars and like multifamily, cannot exist by right on the right side of that road. But what can exist by right is tearing down those homes and putting up a single family home. And so that's what this developer is coming to do. I'm actually, and this is what I was gonna say, I mean this as a citizen, I really appreciate that you are not trying to go after multifamily. We see a lot of developers come and say, oh, well, I know that now it's single family, but look at all those other people who got multifamily and we want it too. So I appreciate that you are working within the neighborhood, that you're understanding the priorities that are of the neighborhood. As a resident and as someone who's on zoning and sees a lot of these projects, I would, my personal opinion is that as a neighborhood, we need to recognize that that block is not going to look like it currently does for a very long time. And it will eventually turn into these single family homes that look more like the rest of the neighborhood. And what I would encourage is that unlike the opposite side of the street, parts of 19th Street, parts of Uber, where the driveways come up and back and up and back, and there's no standard depth, that we as neighbors really consider what that new street front could look like. And this is the first project that we're going to see that is coming before us and even asking what we think about it. For me, I understand that there's going to be parking in front of whatever homes are there, whether it's 30 feet or 18 feet. My personal concern with parking is that I want a front parking space that, honestly, personally, as a resident, I like this parking better than what is currently there, because what is currently there can fit a car and a half, and then there's a car in the middle of the sidewalk or hanging into the street. This very clearly would only allow one car depth. So for me personally, I like that. I walk with a stroller. I can't tell you how many times I've almost been hit by a car having to go into a street because someone's car is parked double in those driveways. But
Can I speak?
That's kind of the overview there. And certainly I think everyone feels different. So yeah, Miguel, your turn.
All right, thank you very much. I'm sorry I joined the meeting a little bit later, but I don't know who was speaking before you, Megan, and I think it's a concerned resident that probably lives right next to the property. As you know, or I should present myself, we live on Uber Street, right at 743. I don't know how far it is in the back of our property, but I think the discussion was about the alleyway, and that's something that we have brought up several times and has not really been considered. It is important for the fact that it's not clear anymore on how it runs. I don't know if you guys had a chance to look on Brown Street, where Stam developed the properties between 19th and Uber. It's a terrible situation because now they're claiming, in a way, ownership of that alleyway because they put their gas meters in the alleyway. And there are other things that are not right, but of course, nobody's going to be saying this after the fact. I think now we have the chance to revisit that. But what I really feel bad about this is that this developer didn't have the courtesy to blanket the neighbors, you know, with the information that we needed to know prior to this meeting. And this is happening often. Like you said, I do appreciate that right now they're not pushing for a 3 or 4 condominium in these parcels, but still, you know, the information is not shared throughout the neighborhood, or at least, you know, throughout the immediate neighbors. I live at 743. I don't remember seeing any information in depth of how the building was going to look until we hit these meetings. For the record, on the last meeting we had what I will call an insufficient voting for 730 North Uber Street, where the owner right next to it didn't have a chance to appear in the meeting because she has no access to the internet. Now, you know, and I know this is after the fact, but this is actually what I'm leading to. We actually went to the what's supposed to be the public meeting at 15th and Arch. And of course, the meeting was online, but the zoning notice didn't say that. You know, and I think now she's trying to fight that back. Her name is Dora. She lives on the property right next to 730th. And I don't think this developer had the courtesy to talk to her, because she said that she didn't know exactly what was happening. You know, there is a serious thing that we're missing, where we're leaving some residents by coincidence, or maybe, you know, on purpose on the dark. And that's how I feel right now. So I don't
the city of Philadelphia.
I'm going to actually interrupt this, Augusta. One quick second. Okay. Miguel, I have a couple things. So one, I think what would be totally fair, especially as neighbors, is to ask if they will put their fence line back at where that alley should be. That's how you're going to reclaim that alley. That's the, or get all your neighbors to get new fences. But you can do it one house at a time with these new construction. I think that's something you could totally ask for, and that would be reasonable. Hold on. Let me finish, Miguel. Two, okay. The reason that we don't have plans ahead of time is that zoning is extremely understaffed right now. Come join us, email them, get it ahead of time. We promise we are doing the best we possibly can to keep up with everything. We are essentially 1 and 2 half separate people, and we are so struggling right now. Come and ask for it. I would love help. It just is like not, I can't do that and get the letters out at the same time. And so I know it's frustrating to a community that we don't have the same level of detail we did when Jason was doing this. And if Jason, if you're my hero.
Megan, don't take me wrong. What I'm saying is that it's not your responsibility. It's the responsibility of the developer. And the developer knows very well how this situation functions, because, you know, they're ready with the lawyer. They're ready with their engineer and architect, but they don't want to take their time, you know, as a courtesy to the other neighbors.
To be 100% honest, I didn't ask them for it. So that doesn't help, and I will own that. I didn't ask any of the developers today for plans ahead of time. I didn't have time to ask, and they're under no obligation to like automatically send it to me. There's also statistical odds that they have sent it to me and I have not saved it, got it to Jen, done what needed to happen.
All right. Well, I mean,
I don't have an answer for you right now. I can go look in my email and, you know, send you an email and tell you what I have and haven't seen in my email. But I would just, you know, it could be just as much my fault as their fault. So just be respectful of that. That's all.
Well, I think I'm trying to be respectful, Megan. I'm just speaking on my behalf, because as you know, I have tried to talk to these people who have built their houses behind us, and guess what? They just shut their door. You know, they don't. I told you, anyone on this meeting, I will invite them to go to the new property between Brown, on Brown between 19th and Uber, and they will see what the stamp did on that alleyway. They close it up.
Yeah.
So who's gonna go after stamp?
I mean, just
Miguel, I hear you, but I'm so sorry. We are way over time on this, and I'm trying to keep.
I leave it at that.
It's okay. Yeah. I just want to make sure that we're focusing on the project at hand and what they're asking for and the reasons for refusal here, which is not necessarily on the building height or even design in some aspects. But Megan, I don't know if you want to read off again what they're applying for and the reasons for refusal, and then I can drop the link in the chat for the voting.
Yeah,
Sure.
I'll let them read that because they have it in front of them and I don't right now. Sorry.
Augusta, do you mind?
Can I just say last thing and I will shut up? I just wanted to say thank you to you guys. I mean, I didn't mean to be disrespectful at all. I just want to bring real facts to this conversation. And for anybody, listening to this conversation, if you really want to make a change, you have to show up to those CVA meetings because that's where the meat is grinded. If we can talk all we want right here, we can scream at each other, but if you don't show up and you don't vote, if you're an immediate neighbor that's been affected and you're not there, or you don't communicate with your neighbors that don't have access to the internet for whatever reason, the developer is going to win, period. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Miguel. I'm sorry, Augusta, do you mind just repeating
Sure.
what you're looking for, the address and what you're going for with zoning?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are proposing, as David indicated earlier, there is an existing single family home that's only 2 stories. We're going to be building a 3-story single family home. It's going to have a roof deck and a parking spot. And so the refusals, again, were for the surface parking spot, its location. We received refusals for the setbacks of the balconies. And we received a refusal because the balcony pursuant to the code is prohibited in the required front yard. And so again, we wanted to solicit some feedback from neighbors on the design as proposed and just find out what concerns neighbors had and feedback that they could provide on our existing application.
All right, this is Carolyn again. I just have one more question. You said that, you're going for a 3-story with the current 2-story. I just wanted to point out that what you're currently calling a 2-story is actually a bi-level, and that you walk in the front door, you don't walk into the first story and then go up another full set of stairs to get to the second story. You walk into the middle of a landing of a single staircase that half flight down, you get to the living space, and a half flight up, you get to, the bedrooms. So it's really more like 1 to 1.5 stories. So is your property
Right,
going
but
to
again-
be a full base? I know, but I just want, for comparison's sake
I mean,
of,
that could be true,
But
Carolyn.
as far as the
way
height-
zoning, Carolyn, the way zoning considers it is 2 stories, even if it
I-
doesn't feel 2 stories.
right, but basically I'm asking this question so that my neighbors have a comparison of that. Not only are you going to be having much taller by right structures, but also this change in setback will be a much larger building than the existing buildings. And Megan, you mentioned that, this won't last forever in terms of the way the block currently looks. There are actually a lot of long-term residents on this block that have no intention of moving. And so this block will remain like it currently is for most likely a substantial amount of time. So this one property coming in and changing, there's a good chance that 2 or 3 other properties on the block might go, but the rest of them have long-term residents with no intention of moving. That's all I just wanted to say so that everybody else in the neighborhood has a good understanding of what the rest of this block is and what the rest of this block wants.
Thanks, Carolyn. All right, so unfortunately, we're out of time for comments and questions. I think you can feel free. I'm going to drop the voting form in the chat for all 3 projects, so you don't have to put your name and address in 3 times. So please just kind of move through. We'll go in order with this first project of 740 North 20th Street. You can vote if you support, oppose, or have non-opposition to this project. And then you can add your comments into that. And Megan, the amazing interim zoning chair, will take all of that feedback into consideration. I do want to also remind folks in the community, if this is your first meeting with us and you haven't been verified as a resident or stakeholder in the community, one of us will be reaching out to you via email within the next couple of days. And if you could just shoot us back with either a lease, a utility bill, or a quick snapshot of your license, something showing residency within the Francisville community, we would appreciate it in order for your vote to count. So just keep your eye out for that if you haven't been verified before. All right.
So the next
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. So the next project we have is 1939 Poplar Street. It is for a permit for the creation of 1 parking space for a single family dwelling. and is a developer, someone here representing that property. Oh, well, maybe we got it mixed up. Okay, we're gonna move on. We're gonna get to you, Vern. We're gonna do you. Your address is 1926. You're also going for parking, and now I think Cambridge was wrong. Sorry, residents.
That's cool.
here.
That happens. You all are volunteers. It's okay. You're allowed to make more mistakes than everybody else, right?
Great. So Vern is here. He's from 1926 Cambridge Street, and they are also looking for accessory parking.
Yeah, I'm going to share my screen, okay?
Great.
I apologize for the blurriness of this particular 1926 Cambridge Street was purchased by my client recently. When it was marketed, it was a beautifully appointed home in Francisville offering rare 2-car parking. It's so rare that apparently it's not compliant. So here's my client's property. Here's his neighbor's. His neighbor does have 2-car parking and it's legalized. It's got permit for it. When my client tried to get the same thing, we got a refusal. So that's why we're here. We'd like to legalize just one. We don't need 2-car parking, but we do need the 1-car parking. It empties out onto this little alley street where there are other cars parked in rear lots. Well, there's already a curb cut. We did the streets department review. The turning radius is perfectly fine. Here's some additional photos of the site. If I could.
Vern, are you able to zoom in a touch?
I'm trying, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. This is the block in the rear. As you can see, we are not the only ones who would be using this for parking. So that's it. My clients love the house, love the neighborhood. That's why they purchased the property. It was marketed to them as a house with 2-car parking. Turns out there's 0. So setting aside the false representation upon which my client relied, he would just like to have parking for 1 car. He doesn't need the 2-car parking. And with that, let me show you proof. He got a violation for parking there, which is what sort of triggered this. We did a mailing, 142 households. And this was the notice, giving folks the link, the date, and the hearing is September 15th at 9:30. And we respectfully request this RCO support, or at least non-opposition, so then I can go forward. And for the record, if we're using the rear for parking, then it technically cannot be used as a yard. So the required 9 feet of yard space, although we meet that definition strictly, because if we park a car there, it's no longer considered a yard. Can't be more straightforward than that one, folks. So if you have any questions, I'm all ears.
Great. We'll open the floor to questions now.
Sorry to be the one again, but things after the fact. I think the guy said it. Can it be more clear than what he said, right? It's either a parking space or a yard. So in case of an emergency, if they ever put a fence, right? And whoever lives there, this person said that these guys are here to stay, which is likely to be debated. If they put a fence, whatever height that is, and there's an emergency and there are vehicles right there, if there is somebody with disabilities, well, goodbye. That's the fact.
I don't understand the question or even the premise of the question or
It wasn't a
the
question.
statement.
It was a statement.
Then I don't understand the statement. I'm sorry.
You're a lawyer, right?
Yeah, if you put up a fence, it can no longer be used for parking.
Right.
It would become a yard. My client has no intention of putting up a fence because he would like to be able to get his car in
Is
and
that
out
a
of the parking
guarantee
spot.
from you or your client?
Say it again?
Is that a guarantee from you or your client? What I'm saying is that,
Is what a guarantee?
Well, we are debating, the situation with a rear yard. There is a minimum requirement of 9 feet. And for your client just to say, well, because somebody got away with it, of course, the reason for this is you got a violation for a reason. You need 9 feet as a yard. You either comply or you do not comply. I mean, I don't live around the neighborhood, but this is the constant situation in Francisville. Let's do this. I mean, your client obviously didn't do his or her homework. Why do the community has to put up with situations like this, where if there is a fire or something like this?
With all respect, sir, I have no idea what you're talking about. My client purchased a property that was marketed for 2 off-street parking spots. It turns out that those 2 off-street parking spots were not legal, even though it was marketed to, and he purchased the price for.
Understood. He should have hired you at the time, not now.
So.
All right. Well, thank you. I don't want to take time of the other people.
Well, I just want to make sure that we walk this through so you understand the facts.
I understand the facts. The fact is that you're asking for parking where there should be yard, period.
Right, because we bought parking.
All right. Thank you.
Yep.
If we have extra time, can I ask one more question about 740?
Yes, let's go back to that in 1 second. Vern, I have one quick question for you. I
Sure,
think one
Megan.
of the issues, Nate, and I'm saying this as a neighbor, one of the issues neighbors have with a lot of this parking, is that it is changing the concrete landscape of the neighborhood, dealing with stormwater, et cetera. Would your client be open to maybe planting some planters, getting some greenery out there, things so that water's not all watershed waste issues?
I can't imagine that he'd be object to that. No, of course not. That's I think a small.
I mean, the concrete's already there. If the concrete
Right.
wasn't there, I would be like, I only say yes if you build permeable pavers, but
Right.
the concrete's there.
I mean, it's already poured, right? So yeah, I mean, I see no reason why. Listen, he's already overpaid for a house with that he thought had 2-car parking. A couple planters is not going to make a big difference for him.
And here we just thought he wanted to be our neighbors.
He does want to be your neighbor, but he wants to be your neighbor with parking in the rear of his property.
Well, fair.
Yes, if I could say one thing, I am
Go
the
ahead.
owner. I appreciate your concern, Miguel, but it is already a concrete slab, and it's been that way for 13 years or so. So it's going to remain a concrete slab, so I wouldn't be a plan to put a lawn there, but yeah, I'm happy to do, some pavers or whatever, the group requests. It's been used as a parking spot for the 10 years, and you're right, they did get away with it, and it was marketed to me wrongly, but we love the area, and, we both work nights, and it's more of a safety issue for us. When we're coming home late at night, we'd rather be closer to our home. And my wife both work nights, so it's more for safety for us than anything else. And then number 2 is that when we're parking there, that's 2 spots that we're leaving, or 1 spot that we're leaving for somebody else to park on the street. So there's benefits for the people around us as well.
Well, I appreciate you coming back to me. I was not planning on speaking again, but I think what I really want you to get is the fact that, we've been dealing with this issue for a long time. And again, we're going back to this group of people doing a great job as volunteers. Of course, not all of us have the time and the stamina to do it. And I don't mean disrespect, but what I want to say is that, when you purchase the house, I'm sure you did your homework. So please do not come to us saying, oh, by the way, I made a mistake. I'm sure if there was a lien on their house, you will know about that. So let's not play that game and just put it straight up. Your lawyer said it.
Sorry, I missed what you said. A lien on the house?
Yeah, I mean, if there was a lien on the house, I'm sure you will have found out. I mean, don't come and say, oh, somebody sold me this house with 2 parking spaces that do not exist, please.
When you purchase property, you run a title search, and a title search would show a lien on the property. There's no lien on the property. I don't know how
There
that's
is not.
relevant. Yeah, there's,
Okay,
I don't know how that's relevant, but.
It sounds like he might have lost connection.
Yeah. I will just put a plug in, Gajan, if I'm saying your name correctly, if you're looking for trees for the parking spot, the Francisville Tree Tenders is always accepting applications for a free street tree, and we would love to have you apply for one.
Yeah, you let us know how to do it, and I'm happy to do that if that's, you know, what it takes. It's more a safety issue. So, you know, I'm not trying to inconvenience anybody. I don't also putting up a fence. If that was also a concern, that it's absolutely not a problem. It's not going to happen. So yeah, absolutely.
Are there any other questions or comments from the community? Megan, you're on mute.
Oh, no, we heard her. I wanted to go back to 740. If
Sorry,
possible.
hold on, Carolyn, hold on a second. We have to wrap up this project before we can move on.
Okay.
Megan, you were on mute for a second. I think
that's okay. I was just gonna say the same exact thing you were saying, that just if anyone has any questions, now's the chance for this specific property. And otherwise we'll move on.
All right, great. So with that, I did drop the link back in again. So there are 2 zoning projects for tonight. And if everyone could please vote, I see we've gotten some responses, but I want to make sure that all the participants on tonight's meeting can vote on this, and then we'll close out the form at the conclusion of the meeting tonight. Does anybody else have any questions about the voting process? Great. Vern, thank you so much. I'm sorry about the mix-up, but we're glad we got it.
It's okay. It's quite understandable. I thank UFCA for hosting us. I really appreciate it.
Of course.
Have a great night.
Thank you. All right. So everyone, make sure you hit submit at the end of your vote. Otherwise, your vote will not be counted. And it's important that voices from the community are heard on these 2 projects. And then Carolyn, if you do want to make your comment or question about the other project, you're more than welcome to.
I had another question for, is she still on? I think she might have left, actually. I don't see the lawyer for the other project still on.
If you want, you're more than welcome to send an email and we can send it on to them.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about the price of the intended build, like post build. If the lot already sold for $450, how much are they planning on selling a 3-story home with balconies and 2-car parking on our block 4? Is this going to be $1 million house? Because I don't think we need $1 million house on our block.
I asked them this when we were in zoning, and they don't have an exact number. Their answer was market rate. So we'd have to look at what similar sized houses in, you know, a couple blocks go for, and that's what they're going to be in.
Because I mean, the prices are already inflated. The house sold for $450. It's valued currently by the city at around $380. So, you know, they're already paying way over market, which is inflating prices for residents that want to live here as opposed to redeveloped properties. And there's definitely a crisis in terms of affordable housing in this city. So just wanted to throw that out there as well, that the proposed project is vastly expanding the living space for a single family home, which will vastly increase the price of the home, and, you know, push up prices for everybody else as well. I just really don't think it fits in with what our block or neighborhood needs right now.
I mean, I don't, you know, I think everyone, there's a million opinions probably on this. You know, the reality is they can build this house. It's just whether it's 30 feet back or 16 feet back.
Right, which greatly increases.
That's what the question is.
Yes, I'm aware of that, but I'm also aware that the current footprint of a house that's 3 stories tall, that would be in line with this block. If you bring it up 16 feet, you're almost doubling the size of the house. Our houses from front to back are about 20 feet. So just as a like frame of reference for that, like you're severely increasing the size of the property and they're also bringing it backwards. So that's going to be a much larger home and therefore a much more expensive home.
Yeah, thanks for your comment, Carolyn. And as Megan said, if you're interested in reaching out to Augusta, you can email Megan at zoning@unitedfrancisville.com and we can pass along those messages to the project attorney.
Great, thank you.
Yep. So that concludes the agenda portions of our meeting tonight. I did have a note that just came in from Officer Jesse O'Shea, who, if you guys have been to some of the meetings in the past, he's the Community Relations Officer for the 9th Police District, and he volunteers on our outreach committee, Community Resources Committee. And he wanted me to just share with everyone and remind folks within the community that although 911 feels ineffective at times, it's still our most vital tool to combat and deter crime. So if you see or hear something criminal, or if it's a quality of life issue that's related to that, please call 911. That's the main number. Everything in Philadelphia gets routed through 911, and then the operators can kind of determine if it's an emergency or it gets routed to a different thing. And then he plans to be here for the September meeting. So, he'll be here to answer any questions, but if anybody in the community has any questions that you'd like us to pass along to Officer O'Shea, I'm happy to take those via email and I can send those along to him. So I think with that, we do have some time left in our community meeting tonight. If anyone had any events to share with the communities, questions, concerns, anything of that nature, to reopen up the floor for that. It's a quiet crowd tonight. I think everyone's on vacation, too much heat maybe. All right. Well, if there's no other questions or comments, I think we'll give everyone back 35 minutes of their night tonight. I do want to remind everyone that we do always meet on the second Wednesday of the month, so super easy to remember. So the next meeting will be Wednesday, September 8th, same time, same place, 6:30, same Zoom link. But the officers and I will follow up with everyone about the Francisville Neighborhood Cleanup Day, as Chris mentioned earlier in the meeting, as well as the meeting recording, minutes, and zoning follow-up and outcome of tonight's project reviews. So I hope everyone has a great rest of your summer, great night, stay cool out there, and we'll see you in September. I'll stay on for another minute if anyone has any questions. Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.
Thanks, Jen.